All right. So it looks like we have 4 people watching now. If you are watching, I am going to ask that you just go ahead and introduce yourself in the chat really quickly. Hi, Alex. All right, I see one of you has responded. Should have a few more that are hopefully going to be able to respond. Hey, Chauncey. Give it maybe a couple more minutes. I know we're expecting a couple people to come. So I will say, kind of to get started, I think most of the people who are observing this year have observed in the past. We're doing a much smaller group of observations this year. And so I'm thinking it's definitely not going to be the same scale as it was in 2016, just based on the interest we've had from the organizations in terms of how many sites they want to have observed and how many teachers and all of that. But that said, I think we also have a smaller group of observers this year too, which works out pretty perfectly. So in a couple minutes, maybe 6:05, we'll call it. If somebody isn't here by then, we'll just move on because I want to finish this very quickly. I don't want to take anyone's time too much. And I think I'm at the start of another cold. I just finished one last weekend, and I think I'm getting one again. So hopefully I won't lose my voice again. All right, so a couple more minutes. Thanks, Chauncey. Okay, so 6:05, I'm calling it. Those who are here are here. I'm going to go, what we're going to do tonight is we're going to go over the observation form together. We're going to go over the invoice form together so you know how to submit payment. And then I'm going to give you some quick instructions for how to get your observations scheduled. It's, again, smaller scale, so it's going to be pretty simple. So first thing I want to go over with you is that observation form. We went over it a little bit at the initial orientation. Let me zoom out a little bit. We went over it a little bit at the initial orientation. We're going to go over it a little bit more in depth here. Some things have been removed because there were some things in here that I just didn't think were necessary. So the first piece of this is really simple, and you should have all that information in your email before you even go, and that's going to be things like the class location, the teacher name, the class level, the date of the observation, your name, your email address. That stuff you can put in even before you go if you want to. The number of students registered, this is just kind of to get an idea of how many students are registered versus how many are actually attending the classes. It's just a small piece of data. You can usually just ask the teachers if they have a list. Some programs don't track this as well, and that's perfectly fine. And if they don't have like a registration process or they don't have a certain number of students registered, you can just put NA, that's fine. Some really quick, just kind of yes or no questions. Did the lesson start on time, and were the students on time? Again, a lot of times what will happen is you'll have some students on time, you'll have other students not on time. That's, I think, pretty standard. So you can always just put some yes, some no. You don't have to give exact numbers. You don't have to go into too much detail for that. But if, for example, the class starts half an hour late, or if none of the students were on time, maybe that might tell us a little bit about something that maybe teachers could benefit from some professional development on. And then just how many students are in the class kind of gives us an idea. As like I'm going through all of these and looking at the different activities. If we have a class of 20 students versus a class of 5 students, obviously the activities are going to be a little bit different, hopefully, and they'll look different. So we kind of have the different pieces of a lesson plan that you would hope to see here, like the different pieces of a lesson. So you have some warm-up, presentation, practice, application, any feedback or evaluation. All of that is going to be kind of represented in here. Not every teacher is going to use every piece of this, kind of whatever you want to call it, an ideal lesson plan or whatever. Not everyone is going to do that, and that's, I think, kind of to be expected. So, just kind of go through, and if they didn't have a warm-up activity, for example, just put they didn't have a warm-up activity, and then we know, okay, so maybe in the future teachers could benefit from training on warm-up activities. Again, and when we're talking about how the teacher presents the information, this is just, is it just, are they standing at the whiteboard and writing everything down on the whiteboard? Do they have activity or dictionaries that the students are using? Do they have activities that the students are using? Are they bringing in visual aids? Just what type of things are the teachers using? Are they not using anything at all? Are they just talking? Just kind of giving us some ideas of what teachers are already using. Same thing with practice. What type of practice are the teachers already doing? Versus what, that way as we're looking through it, we can say, oh, we see a lot of this type of practice, but maybe we don't see as much of this type of practice. So maybe this is something we could give training on. Application activity, I think, is pretty rarely done, just based on what we saw from our data last year or 2 years ago. It wasn't something that was always done, and if it's not done, you can just put NA, not applicable. And then in terms of the feedback that was used in class, this doesn't have to be formal. This could be something as simple as just the teacher giving positive reinforcement, like, hey, really good job, great, perfect, that's feedback. And if they're using any types of like correction or things like that, I don't think we've ever had too many instances of teachers being like rude with their feedback or anything like that, but just kind of give us an idea of what they're doing. For language skills being integrated, so integrated throughout the entire lesson, not necessarily like you need to have all 4 integrated into a single activity, although if they do, definitely write that down, because that's what we would hope to see in a lot of classes. But yeah, if just are all 4 language skills integrated into the lesson, and if not, you can write that too. Talk about the materials that they're using. So this can be things like their teacher had just the textbook and that's all they use. They had just a whiteboard and that's all they use. They had flashcards, they had realia, whatever it is that they brought in. The grouping throughout the class, this doesn't need to go super in depth either. I'm trying to make this, as simple as possible for you all as you're completing it too. This is just, did they have the whole group working together throughout the entire class? Did they only have individual work? Or did they have like small groups throughout? Just kind of, and if you think it was appropriate for the lesson that the teachers were doing. The teacher talk time, this is something, again, you don't have to be precise with this, but if you can say, the teacher talked half the time, the students talked half the time, or the teacher talked the whole time and the students barely talked, or the students talked almost the entire time and the teacher didn't have to say much at all. However it was, again, I'm not looking for exact numbers here, but just kind of to give us an idea of how the teacher talk time is doing, because obviously that's one of the things that we want to be focused on in an ESL classroom, is getting the students talking. So again, I don't think we've ever had an instance of the teacher not being warm and friendly, or the students not seeming comfortable, but it's still important to put there, and this is in part just because the teachers are going to see these too, and I think that's really important that we're, having the students be very comfortable in the class. So, you can just say, yeah, the students looked really comfortable in the class, it's clear you had good rapport, things like that. And then evaluation as it's applicable. Again, this doesn't need to be super formal. This could just be the student checked, or the teacher walked around and checked the practice activity that they were doing, or the teacher, collected homework, or it could be something as simple as that, or listened to the role plays that they were doing. It doesn't need to be a formal evaluation, like a test or an assessment or anything like that. So In terms of this portion here, again, the teachers are going to see this, and we want to be very encouraging to the teachers. So we want to present everything in a positive way. So, for example, if they didn't have a warm-up activity, obviously that's something that you would want to talk with a teacher about and say, hey, I noticed you didn't use a warm-up activity. Maybe this is something you could try in the future. So you could just say no warm-up activity used in your observation. But then afterward, you will actually, again, have that chance to talk to the teacher, and you can let the teacher know, like, look, based on what you were doing today, if you were talking about vocabulary related to going to the doctor, you might want to have a warm-up activity in which you actually have students, talk about what they might need to express to a doctor, or things that have come up in the past, at least something, so that they have a foundation to build off of. So this is the basic observation. This is where I'm going to get most of the data from when I go over all of these at the end. This part down here is just a quick little interview with the teacher, and again, this is just sort of very quick, basic information. You don't need to go too in depth. Just the experience level, whether they're a volunteer who doesn't have any background or they have a master's degree in TESOL, whatever the experience level is, you can put that there. Educational background, whether they have a biology background, whether they have a TESOL background, whether they have a background teaching literature, whatever it is that their background is, how many MCAEL trainings they attend, and any other professional development that the teacher is pursuing and that is related to ESOL. So if you have someone who is doing this as a volunteer and they have another job, we don't really need to know about the professional development they do for their other job. Only saying that because last year that was included in one of the observations, and I thought it was cute, but I didn't think it was necessarily relevant. So that's kind of the basics here. I left a lot of space here for you to provide instances you really enjoyed. This is just, again, kind of put this in as extra encouragement for the teachers. So that is what you would need to do for that. At the end, just like before, you're going to go over everything with the teachers. You're going to present your recommendations to them. And again, we want everything to be done in about as positive a way as possible. I'm going to go really quickly now into the invoice portion. This is how you get paid. So I'm not going to have you, Michaela's going to have you just put the information that you need in this box up here. You can just fill this in with your stuff, and then right here, down here is the information of the person that it needs to be sent to. Email address is right here at the bottom. You can email a digital copy of this, and it should be fine. You don't need to CC me. I don't need to, know that it's been submitted. I'm trusting you that you want to get paid and you're submitting it to them, but I will, just kind of, I'm letting them know more or less how many hours each person should be working. They're going to have a copy of that schedule. So you're going to put in the program name that you observed for, the instructor that you observed, the date of the observation, how many hours, and then the total amount that you're charging. You can submit one of these per orientation, or you can put them all on one invoice and submit it at the end. However you want to do it, it's completely up to you. The rate that we're paying is $35 an hour, and that is that. It's pretty straightforward, I think. I think the only thing that's really changed is who you're sending it to from the last time we did it. So the last thing I kind of want to go over with you is just the next steps for you, which is going to be, I think, pretty, since we're having a much smaller orientation or a much smaller observation project this year, what I'm going to have you do is just email me really quickly dates in February and March that would not work for you. All right, and I'm going to have you email me more or less what your schedule is like. So if you can, for example, it's the same thing that I'm requesting from the programs that are being observed. So if you just want to shoot me an email really quick that says, hey, I am available on Saturdays, I am available on Thursday afternoons, and I'm available on Monday afternoons. Great. I can work with that, and I can get you some observations scheduled. I have the schedules from all of the teachers who are going to be observed already. So once I have your schedules, I can put together a little schedule for you, and you can let me know if that's going to work for you or not. So really, I just need to know what days of the week you're typically available. and then any dates that you would absolutely not be available that go outside of that range. So if you're typically available Tuesday and Thursday afternoons, but you're not available on a particular Tuesday in February, then I won't schedule anything for that. I only need to know about February and March. That's when our observations are taking place. Anything that comes after that, I'll reach out to you individually. But so far, all of the programs have requested observations in those 2 months. So that should work out. As for now, if you have any questions, feel free to write something down in the chat. I appreciate you taking a few minutes just so that we can have had this little quick chat and I can show you all the information that you need. And if you have any other concerns that you don't want to talk about in the chat or you don't want to talk about right now, you can always shoot me an email at staff@mcale.org and I will do my best to answer your question. All right, so if that's all I have got, if you have anything else, let me know. Otherwise, I will look for your emails. Thank you. All right, if there's nothing else, I'm going to go ahead and end the stream. So thank you all so much, and I will look for your emails. Take care. Have a good night. Stay safe. Don't drive. It's pretty snowy out there. Bye, everyone.